Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Read, Watch, Listen on the East Brunswick Public Library Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chris Barnes, and today we have a special guest, one of the newer faces here in the library. I'd like to introduce SadéGreen-Puik. She is our new Youth Services Manager. How are you doing, Sadé?
Hello, I'm good.
So Sadé's joined us in the last couple months, and she is Manager in Youth Services. She is a children's librarian extraordinaire. Sadé, why did you want to be a children's librarian?
Oh, I want to be a children's librarian just because it's just so much fun. The children's books are awesome, and then working with kids, and I also work with teens sometimes. They're just a good time. They really are. From crafts and tweens, and they will tell you like it is. There's no filter, so they'll let you know what's up.
I have a 3-year-old at home, so I completely know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
So now do you prefer older kids or little kids or teenagers or
I like working with everybody, but I work with tweens a lot, and they're a lot of fun because they really are stuck in between. And so the things that they say and the questions, so we really do have a good time.
and I've noticed this myself because you're a little younger than I am, but that tween age is the age of kids where it's really weird. And I think they've been neglected for a long time in libraries and just in general, because it's either you're a happy little kid or you're a teenager in high school who's doing a million things. And that middle age group is kind of on their own. And it's nice to see that they're getting more attention and love in library world.
Exactly. We've been really trying and get them acknowledged and do programs for them and all that good stuff.
Well, I know I'm biased because I'm your coworker, but you're doing a great job.
Why, thank you.
Okay, we're going to get on with our show. It's Read, Watch, Listen, where we talk to our library customers and library staff about the media that they've been enjoying and to get some recommendations. You can find most of these here at the library. And if you check your show notes, we'll put links to it in the catalog or where you can find it. We're going to start off with a read. Sadé, what is a book that you recommend?
I read The Poison Heart by Kaylin Byron. I always mess up names. I'm terrible. And I have such a complicated name. So you think I'd be better at people's names, but I'm not. The Poison Heart is a YA book, and it was about a teenage girl who was able to control plants and stuff. And I'm obsessed with plants, so it was my jam.
Now, do you have a favorite plant?
I really like the snake plant because it's easy to grow and mine's like out of control. So yeah.
Well, if it's easy to grow, that's a good one. That makes the read component of our show. So, what have you been watching?
Well, my husband's obsessed with Star Wars. And of course, we ended up talking about Star Wars on this podcast. How ironic. And so I've been watching the Book of Boba Fett. And even though it comes on once a week, we have to watch that. And then we have to watch YouTube, all the little sneak things that we may have missed, and then all the reviews. So it's this whole thing. So that's what I've been watching. And then I've also been watching Encanto because that's my favorite because we don't talk about Bruno. I've been singing that nonstop. It's also my ringtone.
Okay, now this is actually a great thing. I've seen all the memes and jokes from my friends on social media about it. So could you please explain the show to me? Because I am completely lost.
Encanto is a Disney movie, and basically it's this large family in Colombia, and they all have different gifts, and it's just such a fun movie. Great songs, and one young woman does not have a gift, so she's trying to figure out her place in the family because she doesn't have the gift like everybody else. And it's so great, and everyone's singing, and you should play it for your daughter because it's so good. And then we can sing "We Don't Talk About Bruno" because that's my jam again.
Well, now I know, and I feel so much more hip and relevant.
Mhm.
Speaking of music, lastly, what have you been listening to?
Okay. My listening is all over the place because I have a commute, so I'll listen to audiobooks. And then, like, my podcast, I'll listen to Crime Junkie, so that's true crime. And then another podcast, I'll flip over and be epic gardening. I got to know all my gardening tips and tricks because I have to be ready for gardening season because you got to be ready for that. And then for my music, I'm still in the 90s and early 2000s hip hop and pop. I'm gonna forever sing the Spice Girls. It's just who I am as a person.
It's important. It's also really scary when you start thinking about it that it's 25 years of Spice Girls.
Yeah, it is what it is. It comes on and this is my jam and I'm gonna sing this. Thank you.
But that's like the thing. They put out one album of stuff that's going to be playing in the clubs forever, and everybody wants that career.
Exactly.
Thank you for being on the show today, Sade. And if you want to find any of Sade and the rest of the great children's programs we have going on at the library, check us out on our online calendar. You can visit it at www.ebpl.org/calendar. This concludes yet another episode of Read, Watch, Listen on the East Brunswick Public Library Podcast Network. Special thanks to our producer, Melissa Hozick, who makes us sound so great and cool. And you can check this out, plus tons of other podcasts that we have recorded online at www.ebpl.org/podcast. For Chris Barnes, thanks for listening.